Good morning. I am Dr. Julie Harlan, Assistant Provost for Graduate and Professional Studies and Associate Professor of Agricultural Leadership, Education, and Communications at Texas A&M. I would like to welcome all of you to the U.S. Senator Phil Gramm Doctoral Fellowship Awards ceremony. The Phil Gramm Awards are given annually to doctoral students who exhibit exemplary teaching and research. To get today's ceremony started, I am pleased to introduce the Associate Provost of Graduate and Professional Studies and Professor of Electrical and Computer Engineering, Dr. Karen Butler-Purry. Under Dr. Butler-Purry's leadership, Graduate and Professional Studies has grown in enrollment, expanded program offerings, and increased funding and support for graduate and professional students. Welcome, Dr. Butler-Purry.
Good morning, and thank you all for joining us. It is an honor to welcome our distinguished Dr. Phil Gramm Fellows, as well as faculty and staff who have supported them. Welcome also to friends and family members joining us to commemorate the achievements of their loved ones. You've provided encouragement and invested in helping them pursue their goal of a graduate education. For that, you deserve credit and gratitude, theirs and ours. Though we celebrate our awardees from a distance, we know that you have supported them every step of the way. This ceremony, along with the previous ceremonies held this week, celebrate the achievements of graduate and professional students and highlights the significant contributions they make to Texas A&M. While we wish you could have gathered in person, we hope that you have enjoyed our virtual salute to graduate and professional education thus far, and will join us again tomorrow for the State of Graduate and Professional Education address. This year, we have just under 15,000 graduate and professional students at Texas A&M, and this Phil Gramm Fellow ceremony recognizes and honors the contributions of 7 outstanding doctoral students. In recognition of their accomplishments, each recipient will receive a framed certificate and a $5,000 cash award to support their continuing study. Dr. Gramm's legacy of scholarship and public service makes him both an appropriate namesake for the Phil Gramm Fellowship as well as an outstanding role model for these student recipients. Dr. Gramm holds a PhD in economics from the University of Georgia. He then served our university for 12 years as a professor of economics before taking congressional office in 1978. He represented Texas' 6th congressional district in the U.S. House of Representatives before being elected to the Senate, where he served for nearly 2 decades. Dr. Gramm is the author of numerous books and articles. His research concentrates on monetary theory and policy, theories of private property, and tax reform. During his time in public office, Dr. Gramm stayed connected to Texas A&M. After the 1999 bonfire tragedy, Gramm designated his F-16 flyover, typically reserved for senators' funerals, to be performed in honor of the 12 students lost. Currently, Dr. Gramm is the senior partner of Gramm Partners, a public policy firm in Washington, D.C. He is also a senior partner at U.S. Policy Metrics and a visiting scholar at the American Enterprise Institute, where he is still working to improve the U.S. economy. Dr. Gramm appreciates the vital role that graduate students play at Texas A&M. His public service model began with research and teaching before he became an elected official. While graduate students often excel in either teaching or research, the students we honor today are rare indeed. Like Dr. Gramm, they excel in both teaching and research, the mark of a true scholar. It is my pleasure to present this year's U.S. Senator Phil Gramm Fellowship Award recipients.
MICHAELA, BACA, Department of English, College of Liberal Arts, Faculty Advisor Nadra Perry. MICHAELA is a PhD candidate in the Department of English. Her research is focused on later medieval and early modern women's writing and feminist book history and bibliography. Her dissertation rethinks the role of book ownership and authorship specific to Tudor queenship and its impact on commercial women's authorship. The archival research for her dissertation, conducted primarily at the British Library and the Free Library of Philadelphia, was supported by her department and a Glasscock Center for Humanities Research's Graduate Research Fellowship. Her work on Mary I will appear in a forthcoming edited collection as part of Palgrave Macmillan's Queenship and Power series. In addition to her research, MICHAELA enjoys teaching, writing, and literature in the English department, where she integrates digital approaches to text and questioning the power dynamics of canon creation with her students. Her teaching has been recognized by the Staley Creswell Award for Excellence in Teaching, the Fasken Graduate Student Teaching Award, and the Association of Former Students Distinguished Graduate Student Award for Teaching. MICHAELA plans to defend her dissertation in January 2021. KIMBERLY CLOUGH, Department of English, College of Liberal Arts, Faculty Advisor Dr. Marianne Eade. Kimberly is a PhD candidate in the Department of English, where she studies 20th century transnational literature. Her dissertation explores literary representation of Muslim women's veiling practices, refuting assumptions of unicritical religious observance of coerced covering. Muslim writers evince self-reflection about veiling practices as performative of identity. She has presented her research at international academic convenings and been awarded travel grants to attend these events. As instructor of record at Texas A&M University, she has taught multiple courses from introductory composition to upper division literature. Her teaching has been recognized by the Association of Former Students Distinguished Graduate Student Award for Excellence in Teaching. She currently works as a graduate assistant researcher for the Office of Institutional Effectiveness and Evaluation, where she assists in assessment initiatives.
My name is Kimberly CLOUGH, and my dissertation is titled Women of Cover in Contemporary Transnational Literature. Muslim women's veiling practices are a global obsession. Around the world, wearing a headscarf, hijab, or burqa is debated in legal and political realms. While many may be familiar with compulsory veiling in countries like Iran, France and China number among many countries implementing anti-veiling policies. What is strikingly absent in these debates is the voices of Muslim women. While these women have become increasingly visible in popular media, these representations are limited to the aesthetic display of diverse subjects rather than the content of diversity. For example, Amina Khan's brief stint as L'Oreal's spokesperson was abruptly terminated due to old political tweets. While mainstream media wants to show diversity, they are unwilling to listen to diverse subjects. Both popular and legal discourse on Muslim veiling excludes the voices of the very women they seek to represent or protect. In part due to the exclusion of Muslim women, the veil debate has been oversimplified. While there are many sartorial forms of Muslim veiling, popular discourse refers to all of them as veil. This simplification is reflected in popular media that presents dilemmas as easy, moralistic decisions. Increased representation of Muslim women who veil is celebrated, but police officers stripping women of their burkinis on French beaches is condemned. My research intervenes in the global veil debate by introducing a literary approach. What literature adds is the voices of women who choose to veil. My work is driven by two primary questions. First, what do Muslim women say about their own veiling practices? Second, what does solidarity with these women look like? Muslim women nuance global debates by situating their sartorial practices in socio-cultural contexts. Refuting assumptions of uncritical religious observance or coerced covering, Muslim women writers evince self-reflection about veiling practices as a performance of identity. Since literature does not only reflect lived experiences but also seeks to intervene in reality, I also analyze works written about veiling. While these literary representations may not accurately reflect the lived experiences of Muslim women, the imaginative attempts at understanding are a necessary part of creating a collective for political and social change. I argue that the literary representation of Muslim women becomes an authorial attempt to come closer to those who are different. What I aim to demonstrate in my work is how Muslim women who choose to veil can be incorporated in diverse societies without the expectation that they remain silent or assimilate. My dissertation argues that the Muslim veil, as a marker of uncompromising difference, provides a useful paradigm in reimagining academic discourse about diversity, which often contains assimilationist assumptions.
CAROLYN GUNTHARDT, Department of Chemistry, College of Science, Faculty Advisor Dr. Simon North. CAROLYN is a PhD candidate in the Department of Chemistry. Her research focuses on the photodissociation dynamics of small molecules, including ozone. She has made a significant research breakthrough in developing an understanding of the anomalous behavior in oxygen rotational distributions arising from the photoliths of ozone. She has multiple high-profile research publications and has received awards for her research, including the Thomas Hairston Memorial Graduate Scholarship and the Dow Chemical Graduate Scholarship. In teaching, she has served as a teaching assistant for general and physical chemistry laboratories, including kinetics and thermodynamics. She was awarded Outstanding Teaching Assistant by the Chemistry First Year program. She has also served as a mentor for 5 undergraduate students in chemistry.
Hi, my name is CAROLYN GUNTHARDT, and I studied the photodissociation of ozone in the laboratory of Dr. Simon. When ozone interacts with ultraviolet light, such as sunlight, it breaks apart into an O atom and an O2 molecule. This process is constantly occurring in our atmosphere. The newly formed O2 molecules vibrate and rotate at different speeds because of the photodissociation. By measuring the rotational and vibrational speed distributions, we can learn a lot about the photodissociation process. Because ozone is very important in atmospheric chemistry, its photodissociation with ultraviolet light has been studied extensively by experimental and theoretical chemistry. For the most part, theory does a great job reproducing experimental results pertaining to the photodissociation of ozone. There is an unusual pattern in the rotational speeds of the O2 fragments, however, that theorists unsuccessfully tried to reproduce for decades. In my research, I further studied this unusual pattern using lasers. In the lab, I used one laser to break apart the ozone molecules and another laser to detect fragments rotating at specific speeds. By studying how the pattern and the rotational speeds change following the photodissociation of ozone at different temperatures, we developed a model that explained the experimental results. This model is in opposition to the model that has been accepted for over 30 years. Our computational collaborators performed quantum calculations based on our model and were able to use theoretical chemistry to successfully reproduce the unusual pattern in the rotational speeds of the O2 photofragments for the first time. This work, in addition to improving our knowledge about how ozone photodissociates, provides an example of how experimental chemistry can aid in the development of theoretical chemistry. Accurate experimental results are essential for testing theoretical chemistry and pushing the field further. The more accurate theoretical chemistry becomes, the better we can understand different chemical processes, and the more accurate important modeling, such as atmospheric modeling, will become.
SHREEDEVI ARUN KUMAR, Department of Biomedical Engineering, College of Engineering, Faculty Advisor Akhilesh Gaharwar. Shree is a 5th-year PhD candidate in the Department of Biomedical Engineering under the supervision of Akhilesh Gaharwar. She received her bachelor's in molecular biology and biochemistry at Rutgers University. Her research is focused on developing drug delivery platforms for various biomedical applications, including vaccination and cancer treatment. She successfully developed a biodegradable, injectable vaccine delivery platform that can potentially withstand the harsh transportation conditions often experienced in developing countries. This platform can also be activated upon injection by the medical staff, providing additional personalized control over the delivery of the vaccine. She has published the results in peer-reviewed journals and has presented in several national conferences. SHREE is also pursuing entrepreneurial efforts to commercialize this technology by participating in NSF One Core Site program. She is passionate about teaching and mentoring students, is an Academy of Future Faculty Fellow, and has served as an instructor of record in the Department of Biomedical Engineering for 2 semesters.
A child dies every 20 seconds because they do not have access to life-saving vaccinations. Now, why is it so hard to get a vaccine that's commonly available in a country like US to the developing world? To understand the underlying issue, let's imagine having to go on a road trip during one of the hottest days in summer and carrying some cold drinks along. Now, we would need some ice packs and cooler boxes to ensure that these drinks remain cold during our trip. So similar to the cold drinks, vaccines would also have to be maintained with a constant cold chain transportation in order to make sure that their functionalities can be retained, except that this road trip would actually be thousands of miles long. In a desert where there is no refrigerated trucks, these vaccines are often transported in ice boxes that are then mounted on top of a camel. As we can imagine, this system is not the most efficient, and any lag in the system of constant cold chain transportation could actually result in the vaccines being non-functional and also cost billions of dollars annually. My research thus focused on engineering a solution to counter these challenges with vaccine transportation. Our solution is to protect these vaccines from high temperature during transportation and thus reducing the need for constant refrigeration. Now, how do I do this? Let's go back to the same summer road trip where we would likely apply sunscreen to protect our skin before we head out the car. Similarly, we are coating these vaccines with a protective layer around it for enabling it to withstand extreme temperatures during transportation. Now, just like how we would have to reapply sunscreen after a couple of hours, we would also have to re-administer these vaccines after a couple of months to ensure complete vaccination. Now, the problem is that kids in these developing world do not often make it back to the clinics on time to get these booster shots. So we have engineered our protective layer that surrounds the vaccines to also enable timely release of these booster shots, thus reducing the need for multiple clinical visits. Thus, this super sunscreen can actually protect the vaccines from harsh temperatures, not only saving billions of dollars annually, but also saving the lives of millions of children around the world. Now that I've engineered this system, I'm also interested in looking at how our body responds to these materials that are used to make these biomedical devices, such as the vaccine protective layer. I'm currently working in Dr. Gaharwar's lab to ensure that the systems that I've developed are impactful and also safe for use.
Mickey Parker, Department of Rangeland, Wildlife, and Fisheries Management, College of Agriculture and Life Sciences, Faculty Advisor, Dr. Lee Fitzgerald. Mickey is a PhD candidate in the Ecology and Evolutionary Biology doctoral program and an active member of the Applied Biodiversity Science multidisciplinary doctoral program. Mickey's dissertation research focuses on restoring populations of declining species, specifically the dunes sagebrush lizard, through conservation translocations. He has presented research at 17 local, national, and international conferences and has co-authored 7 peer-reviewed journal articles, technical notes, and book chapters. Over the course of his career, Mickey has mentored at least 20 undergraduate students. He brings his passion for teaching aspiring biologists to the classroom, where he has been a lab instructor for 3 courses.
We're in the middle of the 6th major extinction crisis in our planet's history. As dire as the extinction crisis is, focusing solely on extinction only tells part of the story. Scientists have even found that species that are considered common are losing populations at an alarming rate. They've called this phenomenon biological annihilation. One tool that conservation scientists can use to combat biological annihilation is translocation, which is just when humans move an organism from one area to another. When this is done for a conservation benefit, say restoring a population that's been lost or supplementing a declining population, this is called a conservation translocation. The goal of my dissertation research is to improve conservation translocation for species that specialize in particular habitats. The dune sagebrush lizard takes habitat specialization to an extreme. It only occurs in a narrow arc of dunes that stretches from a few counties in southeastern New Mexico into West Texas. The dune sagebrush lizard completes its entire life cycle within this dune system, living in bowl-shaped depressions of sand called blowouts. The dune sagebrush lizard's entire range overlies the Permian Basin, which is the largest oil and gas producing area in the U.S. Activities from oil and gas extraction have degraded the dunes and fragmented the lizard's habitat, causing some populations to go locally extinct. From 2016 to 2019, we conducted the first ever conservation translocation for the dune sagebrush lizard. Translocated lizards reproduced at the site, and hatchlings produced at the site survived to adulthood. The population did not persist by the end of the study, but even translocation success stories have taken several attempts to successfully establish a population. We learned important lessons that are immediately applicable to future conservation translocation efforts for the species, including monitoring methodology and potential obstacles posed by land tenure situations. Now, most of us don't recognize it, but the results of successful translocations are all around us, from European starlings in our yards to Mediterranean geckos hunting insects under our porch lights. The rest of my dissertation research borrows from scientists who study how invasive species such as these are able to establish. These invasion biologists are often able to look at interactions with other species to determine how those affect an invader's success. They can also look at traits of species, such as lifespan or number of offspring produced, to predict the invasion potential for that species. Rather than using these methods to stop population establishment and prevent invasions, I'm using them to maximize translocation success potential and fight biological annihilation to conserve our planet's biodiversity.
Jordan Rogan, Department of Rangeland, Wildlife and Fisheries Management, College of Agriculture and Life Sciences, Faculty Advisor, Dr. Thomas E. Lacher, Jr. Jordan is a PhD candidate in the Department of Ecology and Conservation Biology and a member of the Applied Biodiversity Science Multidisciplinary Doctoral Program. Her dissertation research takes a multidisciplinary approach to assess the impact of anthropogenic land use change on mammal biodiversity in Monteverde, Costa Rica. She has taught 2 different undergraduate lab courses in her department for multiple semesters and has been a featured guest lecturer in several courses. Jordan has also served as a mentor for Texas A&M undergraduate students in ECCB and the ABS Conservation Scholars Program funded by the National Fish and Wildlife Foundation, as well as 2 international students from Costa Rica and Peru in research analysis and as field assistants for her doctoral research in Costa Rica. She has received several awards during her time at Texas A&M, including a Fulbright Fellowship. Jordan has actively engaged in STEM outreach in the community and in various leadership and service roles through multiple student organizations and university committees, including the entirely student-led science and research exhibition, the Ecological Integration Symposium. She will present her final thesis to the community to aid in on-the-ground collaborative conservation initiatives.
Habitat loss and fragmentation, or the breaking apart of habitat into smaller, more isolated patches, are key drivers of species loss globally. My dissertation research investigates the impact of human-driven habitat loss and fragmentation on medium and large mammal diversity in a mixed land use system, or an area that includes human settlements and land use practices, as well as interspersed naturally occurring forest patches within a tropical mountain ecosystem in Monteverde, Costa Rica. This is a highly complex ecosystem that harbors a wide range of species diversity, but is simultaneously directly threatened by land use change and climate change. Medium and large mammals are important from a conservation perspective as they have a disproportionate impact on ecosystem stability and processes. The main aim of my research is to inform the development of integrative conservation solutions in order to maintain biodiversity, ecosystem functioning, and human livelihoods through sustainable land use practices. In order to gather my data, I primarily used trail cameras and interviews with landowners. Trail cameras gathered photos of mammals throughout forest patches across a variety of sites within my research area that had varying levels of surrounding forest cover, from low levels to high levels. I'm a member of the Applied Biodiversity Science program at Texas A&M University, which emphasizes the integration of ecological and sociological approaches to effectively address emergent conservation problems. So I incorporated local knowledge from landowners through interviews in order to gain a greater understanding of the influence of rural communities and conservation through perceived threats to biodiversity and natural resources, as well as perceptions of conservation institutions and initiatives in the region. Extensive species loss and ecosystem degradation leads to a disruption in normal ecosystem functioning, which is not only detrimental to the wildlife it supports, but to people who depend on healthy, stable ecosystems for their livelihoods. My dissertation research will fill important knowledge gaps in areas of conservation biology research, as well as provide a broadly applicable framework to predict and assess the impact of land use change on biodiversity that can be used to prioritize how limited conservation funds should be directed to have the greatest impact across ecosystems. My dissertation research will also have local significance in Costa Rica, as my findings will be directly applicable to several national and regional initiatives that incentivize habitat protection and sustainable land use practices that in turn can provide ecosystem services that are beneficial to local communities.
David W. Sullivan, Department of Management, Mays Business School, Faculty Advisor, Dr. Murray R. Barrick. Dave is a PhD candidate in the Department of Management in the Mays Business School. His dissertation, chaired by Dr. Murray Barrick, focuses on the manifestation and impact of anticipated misfit during the job search process. He has conducted additional research projects examining topics such as person-environment fit, performance management, and gender bias. His work has been published in the Journal of Applied Psychology and the Journal of Management. In addition to his research activity, Dave has also mentored a team of students through the Aggie Research Mentoring Program and has taught 2 sections of managing human resources. He is the recipient of the Mays Business School's 2019 Dean's Award for Outstanding Research and the 2020 Dean's Award for Outstanding Teaching by a Doctoral Student. Dave has also served as a doctoral student representative in the Human Resource Division for the Academy of Management. Dave plans to defend his dissertation in spring 2021.
Imagine, if you will, a time when you were in a group, maybe either a group of friends, colleagues, coworkers, or maybe a study group. Now imagine a time when you didn't feel like you necessarily matched or clicked with those people. Maybe there's something wrong as far as your cultural preferences or the things that you really valued. We call this misfit. And so the experience of misfit is particularly negative and damaging, especially as we talk about as it concerns current employees. When current employees experience misfit, they're more disengaged with their work, they're more dissatisfied, they have higher levels of stress, and they're more likely to quit and leave that job. Now, not only is this negative for the current employee, but it has detrimental impact for the organization. In 2018, the estimated cost of recruitment and turnover was over $618 billion. So not only is this a huge cost to organizations, but it's also detrimental for the employee. One of the leading sources of that turnover, for 60 to 70% of these employees, it was voluntary. And leading to that voluntary turnover was this experience of misfit. My research looks at not the experience of misfit for current employees, but how can we help people prevent experiencing this prior to entering the organization. I look at the experience of misfit prior to the organization because if we can help people make better choices, hopefully they can experience better work as they're in the organization. And so my research focuses on how we can better understand
the feelings of anticipated misfit during the job search process. What are those subtle cues that lead you to believe and understand that this may not be the best place for you? And so my research has found that there are two processes that lead to this experience of misfit. One is a discord or a clash between the cultures of the organization and what is important to you. So let's say you really value relationships, but the culture in the organization does not. That process is being able to be picked up in the recruitment and job search experience that leads to anticipated misfit. The other part is the experience of recruitment deal breakers. Recruitment deal breakers are things that maybe they aren't the first important things, but maybe it's the third or fourth important thing to a job seeker. And when these things are violated, so let's say a need for meaningful work, and it's not being promised by the organization, this leads to anticipated misfit. And although anticipated misfit in the job search is relatively low, because we focus on the positive, we focus on how people fit with an organization, and we have this strong desire to fit with an organization, we are finding in this research that anticipated misfit does impact aversion and withdrawal from the organizational process. As I move forward with my research, I look forward to continuing to explore how anticipated misfit impacts individuals as they proceed into the organization. Moving forward, if we can predict this particular important aspect and how it reduces turnover, it will lead to better experiences for not only employees, but help reduce that extreme cost for organizations. Thank you for supporting this research. As we continue to research the impact of anticipated misfit during the job search, we can help people make better decisions as they enter the organization and help reduce the experiences of stress and disengagement for future employees and help also reduce the financial burden on organizations so that they can make better choices and find the right fit as people enter their organizations. Thank you.
Congratulations to the 2020 U.S. Senator Phil Gramm Doctoral Fellows. You all are well deserving of this accolade, and thank you for all you do for Texas A&M University.
Congratulations once more to our 2020 U.S. Senator Phil Gramm Fellows. Thank you for joining us to celebrate their outstanding contributions in teaching and research. Please join us tomorrow for Dr. Butler Perry's State of Graduate and Professional Education Address. Stay safe and have a great afternoon.